Two doors down from you, a young couple just moved in. Late 20s. Nothing flash about either of their jobs. One's in admin, the other's a Sparky's apprentice who only just came off tools training. Nobody in that family is sitting on a mining fortune. Last month, the sold sticker went up out the front, and when the number did the rounds on the street group chat, you went quiet for a second. Well over $1.5 million. And there you are with the bin about to go out, doing the maths in your head, thinking, how? You're not being a sticky beak. You're being honest, because on paper, those numbers genuinely do not stack up. So let's stop wondering and actually pull this apart, piece by piece. Start with the gap, because it's bigger than most people realise. According to Catality, the outfit you'd know as CoreLogic before the rebrand, the typical Aussie home is sitting around $800,000 nationally right now. In Sydney, it's a different universe. The median house is pushing $1.5 million. Meanwhile, a typical full-time wage in this country is somewhere around $80,000 a year. Do that division, and one person on a typical wage buying a typical Sydney house is borrowing close to 19 times what they earn. No lender on this earth signs off on that. And yet the sold stickers keep going up every weekend. So something else is happening. Here's the first thing almost everyone gets wrong. They price a whole house against one income because that's the story we grew up with. One wage, one mortgage. But almost nobody actually buys a first home that way anymore. The couple down your street bought on two wages combined. To a lender, a household earning $160,000 between two people is a completely different customer to one person on $80,000. Borrowing power doesn't just add up. It roughly doubles, sometimes a bit more. As a rough guide, one average wage on its own might stretch to around $420,000 of borrowing. Put two average wages together and you're pushing towards $750,000, maybe more depending on the lender. Same two humans, completely different door into the market. Now the part that actually breaks people, and it's not the mortgage repayments, it's the wall you've got to climb just to get to the starting line. A full 20% deposit on a $1.5 million Sydney place is $300,000. Saving that on normal wages, even as a couple, can eat the better part of a decade. And the cruel bit is, while you're grinding away at that number, the market doesn't sit still and wait for you. You're chasing a line that keeps shuffling further off. So people stopped waiting for the 20%. These days, a lot of buyers go in with 5% instead, through the Australian government's 5% deposit scheme, what used to be called the First Home Guarantee. As of the latest expansion, there's no income cap, no cap on places, and in Sydney, the price ceiling under the scheme sits around $1.5 million. That one change rewires the whole equation. 5% of that same place is around $75,000, not $300,000. The wall just went from a mountain to a decent flight of stairs. Quick one, before we keep going. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you trying to get into the market solo or splitting it with a partner? Genuinely curious, how many of you are doing this on one income right now? Because it changes everything about the strategy. Here's the bit nobody says out loud over snags and a coldie on a Saturday arvo. For a huge chunk of first home buyers, that deposit didn't really come from them at all. It came from mum and dad. What people politely call the bank of mum and dad has quietly become one of the biggest lenders in the country, and almost nobody puts it on the record. The number is genuinely wild. Family money flowing into Australian property adds up to around $35 billion a year. That's not a rounding error. That's a pillar the whole market is leaning on. And it's not a lucky handful either. By recent estimates, around 60% of first home buyers get some kind of help from family. That's the quiet majority, not the exception. Sometimes it's a straight-up gift toward the deposit, and most parents who hand that over never expect to see it again. They treat it as an early slice of the inheritance, given while they're still around to watch it get used. Other times, no cash changes hands at all. Instead, the parents go guarantor, putting the equity in their own home on the line to cover the gap. It gets the kids over the line years sooner and can dodge the lender's insurance cost, but it also ties two households together on paper, whether anyone talks about that risk or not. Picture it properly. A couple, both 29, buy a place just over $1.4 million with a 5% deposit because one set of parents put their own home up as security. And if you're in your 50s or 60s watching this right now, that might be the exact conversation that's about to land at your kitchen table. Your kid asking, and you quietly running the numbers on whether you actually can. Now, the part that's the least visible of all, because it happens quietly well after the neighbours have stopped watching the letterbox. Servicing a mortgage on a place like that can eat up more than half of a typical household's income before tax, before a single grocery run or power bill gets paid. So buying the house doesn't end the effort, it's when the effort actually starts. One partner picks up extra shifts, the other takes on side work. Over time, that just becomes normal, not the exception. The renovated kitchen you spot on their Instagram, that's usually the tail end of 2 years of nobody going out, not the start of an easy run. Here's something moving underneath all of this right now. For the first time in a while, prices have genuinely started easing back. Not crashing, but the sharpest month-on-month drop the national market's seen since late 2022, with Sydney leading the retreat. Two things are driving it. The cash rate climbed through the first half of 2026, and changes in this year's federal budget around negative gearing and capital gains have investors pumping the brakes and rethinking their next move. If you're trying to get in right now, a softer market genuinely isn't bad news. Slightly lower prices, a bit less competition at the auction, and sellers who are actually willing to have a real conversation instead of holding out for one more overexcited bidder. So let's put the whole picture back together, because none of these pieces work on their own. Stack them up and an impossible number turns into a set of keys. 2 incomes instead of 1, a 5% deposit instead of 20%, very often a gift or a guarantee from family, and a level of ongoing grind that never makes it into the photos. That's the honest answer for how they did it. Not luck. Not a secret handshake, a stack of ordinary decisions plus a lot of help that most people are simply too polite to mention out loud. So think back to that couple 2 doors down. Now you can probably guess the shape of it. 2 wages doing the borrowing, a smaller deposit rather than a mountain of one, very likely a hand from one set of parents, and a few quiet years of grind nobody else ever saw. And that matters because the story you tell yourself about other people's money changes how you feel about your own. They're not doing something you never could. They just had a structure. If you're the one thinking about helping a kid into the market, go in with your eyes open and get proper advice before you sign anything. Protecting your own position matters just as much as helping theirs. And if you're the one trying to get in yourself, hear this clearly. You're not behind, and you're not doing it wrong. You're just playing a harder game than the one before you. Quick one before you go. Everything in this video is general information only. It's not financial, legal, or tax advice. Your situation's your own, so it's worth getting proper independent advice that actually fits you. If this cleared a few things up, do me a favour and smash that like button. It genuinely helps this reach more Aussies who need to hear it. Subscribe and turn notifications on so the next one finds you. Catch you in the next one.